Let's now uncomment section 13 and see what we should do. Select Control and /. Okay, again, you can see that over here, let's decide whether we are going to define a new mutator or accessor. We are now in the context of an assignment. On the right hand side, as we said before, if you have a method call on the right hand side of an assignment, that means you're going to retrieve its return value and store that on the left hand side. So this must be an accessor call. Okay, so getReminder should be an accessor. And what's the type of the parameter? BD13, as you can see, BD13 was defined over here in birthday over here. Okay, you can see that it was back in line number 34, and that was type birthday. So that means this method here, getReminder, should get only a birthday. On the other hand, you can see we got another method here, also called getReminders, and this one will take two parameters, 6 and 16, which is June 16th. You can see these two methods are not really completely irrelevant. They're quite related. So you can see this one, basically they're trying to get reminders of the names that you can, for example, if you give June 16th, you want to find out in the current BB, all the names, all the persons who were born on June 16th. That's what you want to find out. And now over here, you can have two options. Either you can pass the month and day explicitly, or you can first create the objects of the birthday out of the month and day and then pass it as argument. So either one would do. We can define one and then use that as a helper method for defining the other. That's what I will show you. Okay, so now let's go to see what should be the return type for the getReminders. And this line here gives you a very clear idea what the return type should be. You can see on the left hand side, we are trying to store the return value for getReminders into this variable here, which was declared as string array. Okay, and similarly, you can see getReminders, the overloaded version over here, which takes a different types of parameter. You will also return the same thing of also string array. Okay, so now we can try to see that. Also, you can see to remind over here, it's because it's an array, so you can query its length. Okay, now let's be a little bit more careful over here. So, because currently the book is simply just empty. So, if you try to get, we know that no names and no birthday exist in the book. So, if you want to remind, so there should be no people to remind. That's why if you go to the PDF, it will tell you that number of reminders for BD13 and for June 16 should just be 0. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, but again, when we define a method, we try to be as complete as possible to save time for later. You don't really have to define a method partially just to get the test passed. Okay. Now let's go to our birthday book class. Okay. Now we can also see that we might also be able to use some. Let's see how we can do this. Okay. So now we have public. Let me just go make it a little bit more central over here. So public, let's define one version first. String, and then let's say we do get birthday. Let me just use this version here. Okay, and then we just have birthday here. Birthday. So given a birthday, we want to know who were born on this particular birthday, right? So now let's document this very quickly. Return an array of persons names, each of which born on this particular birthday. Okay, let's see what we can do. First of all, you should know that you cannot simply just return entries over here, right? Because entries is an array of entry. Okay, we should really figure out exactly how many people were actually born on this particular birthday, and then we have to return that, and we need to know how many first and create an array and then try to assign them to the that particular array to be returned. Okay, this method is a little bit sophisticated, but let's do that. It's not too bad. Okay, so now I will tell you the step. First of all, step 1, figure out how many people were born on birthday. Okay, let's do that first. Okay, let's now run the loop. Integer, let's say number of reminders. Okay, actually I got the name wrong. So now let's go back here. So I should really call that getReminders. Okay, that's a typo for sure. Okay, getReminders over here. Number of reminders is initially 0. Okay, so we're going to go through you can see that this method here is not really appropriate to really call the helper method, which is the index of, because over here we are not really trying to check if a particular name really exists in the birthday book. We are given a birthday, right, rather than given a name. So not necessarily you have to call. It is not necessarily the case that you have to call the helper method in every method. You don't have to. Only call that when it is appropriate. Okay, so now we can say for integer I is 0, I less than NOE. Notice that. And the common error is, let me just emphasize again, common error is if you say I is less than entries dot length. Okay, I plus. Let me write a little bit more concisely. Okay, so you would say if entries at position I, which is the current entry we are looking at, dot get birthday and dot equals. Remember we have already overridden the equals method for birthday. If that's the same as the argument we passed, that means this person has to be reminded, right? So now in this case, we're going to just do the following. The number of reminders plus. We'll just increase the counter, and we'll do another loop we'll do a second pass. This is the very first pass. We just want to figure out how many how many people are there that we should remind. And now step number 2. So after we have figured out how many people were born on birthday, so now initialize or creates an array of reminders of size number of reminder. Okay, so this would be just created an array. So we can say integer, so that'd be string, and then how about just names? How about just reminders? Is assigned to new string, and then we can say the number of reminders. Okay, that's step number 2. Okay, make sure. Okay, if I really want, I can rename this. I can click on that and then go to refactor, rename, put S over there. You can see you change every occurrence of the variable. Okay, step number 3. So now second pass. Okay, how about this? I will just, so this is first pass of entries array. So now it's a second pass. So now we'll say pass entries array for a second time and store all names that are people's name. How about this? All names of people born on birthday. Okay, that's reasonable comments over here. So now let's do a second pass. We can say for integer I is assigned to 0, I less than NOE, I plus. Okay, so now here you gotta be very careful. So now basically you can see I is a loop counter that keeps track of how where we are in the entries array. Okay, I'll write it down first because it turns out we need 2 loop counters. You can say, okay, over here we can say that entry, which is the current one that we are looking at, E is entries at position I. That's the current one we're looking at. So I is a loop counter that's pointing to some position in the entries array. However, because not necessarily every entry in the entries array has its birthday the same as the birthday that we are looking for. It might be at position 0, position 2, position 5, right? In that case, we are not going to use that position number 0, 2, and 5 to store into the reminders. And somehow they should be converted into 0, 1, and 2. Okay. So now what we should do is we should have an extra loop counter. Integer j is 0. I'll say this is positioned in the reminders array. Okay, that's something you should really try to trace and try to understand. This method is slightly more complicated than the methods we defined before. Okay, so now entry E is over here, and then we say if it is the case that e.get birthday dot equals birthday. In this case, what should we do? In this case, we should do two things. We should say now reminders at position j, not I, because somehow the first position to start with should be according to what the current value is in j. Okay, be careful. So we're only using j. J is for us to refer to the reminders array. I is for us to refer to the entries array. Okay, they should be separate. Is assigned to entries at position I, and then you want to make sure j plus plus. Okay, dot get name, of course. Okay, I would say for this method here, it's certainly more complicated than the methods we defined before. You should really study this one more carefully. Okay. Hey, so now, and then you can say returned, and then reminders. Okay, that's what we have. Now let's go back there and then see what we get. And we got another version there that we should define, but this one should be much easier because we have already done one version there. The other version will just massage the input a little bit so we can reuse that method. Okay, let's define that now. So now for this getBirthdayBook, for getReminders over here, so now let's just copy this over here. I'm going to change that. Okay. So now it's going to be integer month, integer day. And now what we can do is simply return over here. You can say simply return. What you can do, well, let me show you just an extra line. You can say birthday BD is new birthday month and day. And then you can say return get reminders birthday. Well, let me call it birthday maybe. Okay, this is one way where you have some intermediate variable called birthday. Let me show you the most concise way you can write. Okay, you can simply say return this anonymous objects. Okay, remember you don't necessarily need a name for every object. Okay, this one also do. Okay, I'll leave both versions for you. Okay, so now both should work. And now let's see what the expected output should be. The expected output should be, it should just be no entries to be reminded, right? So that's true for empty book, but we aim for as completeness really. If you try that, what you will get is simply 0 and 0. But we'll see that once we have we are saving our time for later scenarios where the book is not empty. Okay, so now so far so good. And now let's turn this into JUnit test, and then we are done for this particular section. Okay, so now let's copy that and go to the test. Add test. Public void test number 13, and now paste that, and I will need BB and BD13. Okay, so now BB is empty over here, and also we got BD13. Okay, let me just retrieve that from before. BD 13. Did I miss that? Let's see where it is. Okay, so if I go to BD13, it was created. Let's see where it is. I believe in Eclipse you can find out exactly where it is. Right click and then you can say show open decoration. That's what you can do. And it tells you it is exactly here, right? BD13. Okay, that's a useful feature to have. Okay, that's in section 3 that I created. Okay, go back there and put BD13 there. Okay, so now we're almost set. So now we're going to turn the print statements into assertions. So we're going to say assert equals. When we give it an empty book, to remind, the length should just return 0. Similarly, when we try to call the other version of the getReminders, it should be the same. Assert equals, and over here we can also say 0. Okay, so now this one exactly corresponds to what you will do manually in the console, and of course this is much nicer for regression test. Okay, let's execute the test. So now we have so far accumulated 14 tests and all of them pass.